Well set, Mr. Grant?
Yep, we're good.
Yep, okay. So, we're working on the third portion of the Casey Prep book. This is referring to the literary response and analysis strand. So, we're gonna be focusing on a lot of literary devices. So, because that's what's gonna be asked in the test. For example, questions regarding figurative language, allegory, and imagery and symbolism. And I know that when I took the Casey Prep class, even though I was in advanced classes in high school, that's something that still was not, I wasn't very familiar with. So, did you have something to write? Take notes?
No.
You're on the music? I'm gonna give you like a brief lecture so that way you kind of get a little bit more familiar with these words. So the first one, well, I'm gonna title it Literary Devices. Okay. So the first one is referring to figurative language. And this is basically, it refers to language that communicates ideas beyond the ordinary. So, beyond the ordinary literal meaning of words. So, something that's not exactly just represented through the word. So if I say like a rose, a figurative form of that would be the rose represents love. You know, that's something that's, it's beyond the literal meaning of the word, you know? Okay, so let me go ahead and write that down so you can note it down. Okay, and second, we have allegory. Are you familiar with any of these words,
No.
Maria? Okay, so good, because they are going to pop up in the KC, so this is going to help you. And this is a story in which the characters and events are symbols that stand for ideas about human life or for political or historical situations. So. Oops. Right, and third, we have symbolism. Okay, so symbolism, basically what that is person, place, activity, or an object that stands for something beyond itself. So it's basically a representation of something else. Again, an example would be like the rose. It represents love, and that's a form of symbolism. If you see a tree, it represents life. That's something that, like in poetry, you'll see a lot of symbolism because it's something that represents something beyond itself. And then lastly, for this, we have imagery. You know what imagery is? Okay, so imagery is basically, it's descriptive words and phrases that recreate sensory experiences for the reader. So basically when I describe to you something with like colors and, you know, if I mention heat, if I mention, you know, the way something is set up, the way, you know, using those kinds of words, that's creating something in your head, and that's the result of, that's basically what's coined imagery. That's what we call it, because it helps you recreate something that the author's trying to tell you in your head. That's imagery. Okay? So I'm going to put descriptive words and phrases. Okay, so then aside from these four literary devices, we also have what would fall under figurative language, which is the simile and the metaphor. So let me go ahead and just do this down here. So we have the simile, and we have the metaphor. And then we also have what's called the hyperbole. Oops. Oops, oops, oops. And then we have also what's called let's see, personification. Do you have any idea what any of these are?
I'm familiar with them, except the last two.
The last two? Okay, so can you try and explain to me what a simile is?
I don't know really.
Okay, simile basically is like a comparison. When you compare two things and you use the word like or as. So you're comparing.
It's comparing.
Yeah. Okay, so I left that blank because we're referring to objects, we're referring to people, we're referring to events, ideas. That's why I left that there. Because it's not just limited to two people, it's not limited to two objects. So we're comparing two things, I'm going to say things, using like or as. And then metaphor is comparing Okay, so the metaphor is comparing two things without using like or as. So that's how, they're really similar. You're kind of doing the same thing, basically, but in metaphor, you don't see like or as. So it's really, really, really easy to spot out a simile. Because if I were to say your eyes shine like the sun, what is that?
Similar.
Exactly, because we already know that I use the word like.
Yeah.
So it's really easy to spot out. So for metaphor, we don't use We don't use without. We don't use like or as. And then for
I
hyperbole,
probably use that one though.
metaphor?
Yeah.
Okay, let me give you an example. I'll write it down. So, an example of a metaphor, let's see. So that way you can give yourself an idea. Also, Shakespeare uses a lot of metaphors. So, one example I have is all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players.
Mhm.
That's a metaphor. Because it's saying that all the men and women merely players.
Mhm.
So it's saying that we're all players, but he's not saying we're like players. He can say that, but he's not saying that. He's saying it in a metaphorical way.
Just like
Which
in
is
some
like-
other words.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and write that down. So men and women merely players. Okay, so that's an example of a metaphor. Metaphors are not used as much as similes because it's really easy to make a comparison between two things by using like or as. So that's why they're not as common, but again, you're gonna see it you're gonna see it a lot in poetry, which we are gonna go over a poem today. So we can kind of practice it a little. And then aside from that, we have the hyperbole. The hyperbole basically is an exaggeration of the truth. The purpose of it is to make something funny. So let me write that down. And then lastly, we have personification. And it's basically giving human-like qualities to animals, objects, and ideas. So when you see or you read something, a story, and they're talking about, or they mention a talking bear, that's a personification. Like, because obviously bears can't talk.
Yeah.
So that's what we refer to as personification. Okay?
Like fiction or something?
It's kind of like, basically, you know in Harry Potter when we have that hat, the sorting hat,
Mhm.
the one that tells where, oh, you're gonna go to Gryffindor, to
Yeah.
Ravenclaw, that's a personification. I mean, of course, it's a fictional book, so it's not true, but
Yeah.
at the same time, we're talking about that particular hat because it has the ability to talk, but it's a hat.
Okay, yeah.
Okay? So when objects, animals possess human like qualities or characteristics. Okay, do you have any questions on this so far? No? Okay, so then there's also a few other things that I kind of want to go over real quickly. So we have alliteration, and that's something that pops up a lot in poetry. I'll give you an example of that. So I'll write it down here. I'm just writing this down because I feel like this is really important.
Yeah.
Okay? So you need to, it's better for you to have notes of it than not.
Yeah.
Alright, so alliteration basically is the repetition of consonant sounds at the beginning of words in a poem. So, I'll write down the definition, then I'll give you an example.
Does that word pop a lot in the casing?
Alliteration?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yeah.
The ones that I'm talking about pop out a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the reason why I'm explaining them. There's a lot more literary terms that we could be discussing, but these are the ones I chose because these are the ones that are gonna pop out the most.
Okay.
Okay, so alliteration is a repetition of sounds at the beginning of words. So, an example would be the angels not half so happy in heaven. What's being repeated then?
Kind of like a lot.
Okay, so
So you gave me an example of
Yeah.
a word?
of them using alliteration.
Oh, okay.
So let's see.
Can you write down an example?
Yeah, so this is an example. Oops. Oh, and then this is an example over here too, of metaphor. So just go ahead and. So that way you kind of learn to recognize them. I want you to tell me what you see here. That's a repetition of sounds, well, consonant sounds, sorry. Consonant. Do you know what a consonant is?
A what?
Consonant? Opposite of vowels. So we have vowels, A, E, I, O, U. Consonants is every other letter. Okay, so what do we see that's being repeated? What consonant sound is being repeated throughout this phrase?
What does that word say? Envying?
Envying, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So the angels not half so happy in heaven when envying her enemy. What do we see?
I'm supposed to find something that.
Yeah, so it's a repetition of sounds. So what sound do you hear? The angels not half so happy in heaven when envying her enemy.
What's the sound of it?
No, like what sound do you hear? A lot. That's alliteration.
Oh, okay. Like when you say a word, and what do you really hear from the whole?
Yeah. So the sound that it makes. You know how like when rappers rap, you like they rhyme a lot?
Yeah.
That's the sound that you hear. So we're referring to here one particular sound that you hear throughout the phrase.
The angels not half so happy in heaven when envying her and me. Heaven.
What letter though?
The E?
No.
Yeah.
The E. The angels not half so happy in heaven when envying her and me. What do you hear? Or what letter pops up a lot?
I don't know. I don't see a word that falls out a lot.
Half. Happy. Heaven.
Oh my god, you gotta really like pay attention.
Yeah, so that's what they're asking you for.
Angels not half happy. Okay, okay.
So yeah,
So is the sound of the words?
Mm-hmm.
So say you write. Can you give me an example?
Okay, so she sells seashells by the seashore.
Okay. So
And that, what pops up?
the S.
Exactly. That's alliteration.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Okay, makes sense. That makes sense.
You get it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Alright, so aside from alliteration, we also have foreshadowing. Foreshadowing, I'm just gonna tell you, it's a little bit, it's pretty easy. So you think of shadow, you think of like something you kind of see, you know? It's not always like apparent, it's not always like, it's not always going to present itself, like, it's just there, but you're not really acknowledging it, right? So foreshadowing basically is giving you it's giving you like hints as to what's happening in the rest of the story. So, for example, when you watch a movie and you see like little hints here and there, you're like, oh, that person's going to die, you know?
Yeah.
You get little ideas. That's foreshadowing. That's the same thing that happens when you read a book or read a text. So, they're going to ask you some examples of foreshadowing as well in the text. Okay? All right. So, do you have any questions about this?
No.
No? Pretty straight to the point?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and start. We're only gonna do, I think, 2. So let's go ahead and go to the first, go to this one, the poem. So I'm gonna read it to you. But first, we're gonna use one of our strategies for taking tests, which is to look over the questions first. So that way we kind of have ideas or hints as to what we're gonna look for, okay? All right, so the first question is it's asking the term blue, black, cold is an example of imagery, simile, personification, alliteration. See? These terms do pop up,
Yeah.
okay? So it's better to know what they mean than not know what they mean and guess, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so then we also have, read these 2 last lines from the poem. And then we also have, what is the tone of the poem? So now we need to look out for, we need to look out, which we can mark on the text, that we need to look out for the tone of the poem. We need to look out for blue, black, cold. So that way we know exactly what they're talking about, right?
Yeah. So they want us to look for blue, black, gold,
Mm-hmm.
but for like to what does it stand for?
Yeah, so,
Like what is the meaning of it? What is it?
well, because, the question is asking us, the term blue, black, cold is an example of. So it's going to be asking us about what device is being used when the author uses the word blue, black, cold.
Mhm.
Or what does he try and do for us by using that word.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go ahead and read the poem. Do you want to read it or should I?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, we're going to read it twice because it's a poem. It's better to read a poem twice than to read it once, right?
Okay.
Okay, so go ahead and read it first.
Those winter Sundays too, my father got up early and put his clothes on a blue black coat. Then, with cracked hands and a ash,
The 8th.
the 8th from labor, in the weekday, weather made bank fires blaze. No one ever thanked him. I had wait and hear the cold splintering, right?
Mm-hmm.
Breaking. When the rooms were warm, he had called, and slowly I would rise and dress, fearing the chronic angers
Angers of the house.
or angers of the house,
Mhm.
speaking indifferently to him, who had driven out the cold and polished my good shoes as well. What did I know? What did I know of love? How do you say it?
Austere.
Austere was
We'll look it up
in
right now.
lonely offices.
Okay, so just by reading that, what do you think we can draw from the poem?
He's trying to figure out of his father. Something of his father.
Yeah, but what do you think about his father? What is you think he's trying to figure out something about his father?
No, not really.
Okay, so what do you think is the purpose of the poem? Or should we read it one more time?
Okay, one more time.
Okay, I'll read it. Just give me a second. Those Winter Sundays by Robert Hayden. Sundays too, my father got up early and put his clothes on in the blue-black cold. Then, with cracked hands that ached from labor in the weekday weather, made banked fires blaze. No one ever thanked him. I'd wake and hear the cold splintering breaking. When the rooms were warm, he'd call, and slowly I would rise and dress. Fearing the chronic angers of that house, speaking indifferently to him, who had driven out the cold and polished my good shoes as well. What did I know? What did I know of love's austere and lowly offices? Okay, so I'm going to read to you the definition of austere. Maybe that can help you a little. So austere means severe or stern. It means strict or severe in discipline. Does that give you an idea? Okay, so first off, we know that by reading the questions, what are we looking for?
The tone of voice.
Okay, we're looking for the tone. What tone do you think there is from the options? Which one does it look most related to? Does it seem angry? Does it seem regretful? Does it seem happy, or does it seem ambiguous?
I don't know what the word ambiguous. I don't know the word.
Ambiguous?
Ambiguous, yeah.
It's like strange. It's kind of weird. Doesn't make any sense. That's what I mean.
I don't think it's angry.
Okay, so you don't think it's angry?
I don't think it's happy or regretful. So it doesn't make no sense.
Okay, so let's read the poem one more time. Because angry, yes, you're right. He's not angry. Because it's not like we didn't get the idea that he was mad at his dad, did we?
Mm-mm.
Obviously, we didn't get the idea that he was happy, right?
It's like confused. Like hold it just confused me.
Okay, so let's go ahead and break it down just little by little. So he's talking, Sundays too, my father got up early and put his clothes on in the blue-black cold. Then with cracked hands that ached from labor in the weekday weather, made banked fires blaze. No one ever thanked him. I'd wake and hear the cold splintering breaking. When the rooms were warm, he'd call, and slowly I would rise and dress, fearing the chronic angers of that house, speaking indifferently to him.
Okay. So he's trying to say that nobody thanked his dad for what he did.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. And then okay.
So we know that he's not angry at his father, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know that he's not happy, right? And we know that. What else? So we already eliminated angry and happy. What else can we eliminate?
Ambitious, because it's not weird.
Yeah, it's not like he. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're left with.
Regretful.
Okay, so do you agree though with it being regretful?
Yeah.
Yes, because he's saying nobody ever thanked him.
Yeah.
You know, that sucks. Like my dad did all these things. He
Yeah.
worked so much during the week in the blue-black cold. What image does it give you when he says blue-black cold?
Like the bad weather or something.
Yeah, it's dark, right?
Yeah.
Do you really want to be working when it's like that cold?
No.
It's dark outside? No. So he's saying how he kind of regrets not thanking his dad for the things that he did.
Yeah.
You know? Alright, so we know that. Alright, so now that we answered number 6, which was regretful, let's answer number 4. The term blue-black cold is an example of A, imagery, B, simile, C, personification, or D, alliteration. What do you think? First off, what can we eliminate? Is it alliteration? No, because alliteration is referring to a whole phrase, right?
Yeah.
And here we're only referring to one word. So we can
So
eliminate.
it can be that one.
Yeah. So then what else can we eliminate?
Simile. It doesn't have like or as.
Exactly. Okay, so we're left with imagery and personification.
Those personification with object and numbers. And then we have image. I think imagery.
Imagery?
Imagery. Because there's no phrase, and
But it's a
but
word.
it does, and it does have it does give us an image in our
Yeah.
head.
Yeah.
So okay, so personification will be eliminated.
Yes.
Okay.
Because we don't have blue, black, cold saying something.
Yeah.
So it makes no
Thought
sense.
about it.
Yeah,
'Cause I
so
remember you
imagery.
telling me about the Harry Potter, and I was like, okay, so it does not say
Yeah.
it's talking. Okay.
There we go. So then we have 2 answers down. Let's do number 5. So it says, read these last 2 lines from the poem. What did I know? What did I know of love's austere and lonely offices? All right, and then it says, sorry, I don't think I wrote down. What device does the author use to express his relationship with his father? Allegory, figurative language, foreshadowing, or do you recall? Okay, so do you know what recall means? Because that's the only word we didn't go over. Recall? So, for example, when somebody tells you, oh, you remember I told you that, and you really don't remember, you could say, I'm sorry, I don't recall.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like, I don't remember you telling me.
Yeah, remember.
So, by saying recall means, oh, yes,
Mhm.
you did say that. So, you're remembering something. So, that's what that means, recall. So, out of those 4, allegory, figurative language, foreshadowing, and recall, which one does it sound that, which device does the author use to express his relationship with his father? Allegory, a story in which the characters and events are symbols that stand for ideas about human life, historical. In this case, do the son and the dad represent human life, historical, political events?
Mm-mm.
No.
No.
Right, so can we eliminate that?
Yeah.
What about foreshadowing?
No. But he is ignoring something.
He's what?
He is ignoring the fact that he didn't thank his dad about it. Because foreshadowing, he said that was like, it's there, but you don't pay attention.
No, foreshadowing is like giving you clues, examples. Like giving you clues, hints, yeah.
Clues.
Remember I
Okay.
said hints?
Okay.
It's like hints, oh, this is what's gonna happen. And when you watch a movie, it's like, oh, now I know, like, oh, I can tell that this guy's going to die because
Okay,
of
okay.
this. You know, that's foreshadowing. So, does he use foreshadowing to show that?
No.
Alright, so what about, so we have left figurative language and we have recall, right?
I am but I put in 2 classes. Yes.
Which one?
61 and
What do you think?
okay, CD
So CD
10
10
Mm.
and 61.
CD
Why
16
would you communicate something beyond the meaning in the word?
the fall. Just
Yes.
one, yeah? Fall. Let's see.
Well, does that sound like it?
The bonus one.
Yeah.
No, right? Oh, yes.
I don't know. Why wouldn't it make
But
sense?
Kevin worked
Because
today.
figurative language, we're talking about specifically. It says, what device does the author use to express his relationship with his father?
Mhm.
Does he use figurative language?
No.
He's not talking about like, he's not saying something, he's not trying to say something in an underlying way. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? He's just talking more directly like, we were indifferent, we treated him like this. So it's
Yeah.
not like, he's not really using figurative language to describe this. So what is he using? Remember, one of the options is recall.
Recall.
He's talking about past. So what do you think, which of the 2 do you think it is? Figurative language or recall?
Recall.
Right. Why?
Oh, why? Because he doesn't, he is just noticing that all the things that dad did and he never said. Thank you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So because he's referring to the past and he's talking about the things that they went through and the things that, you know, the way that they treated their father, he's using recall. He's referring to the past so that way he can explain his regretful feeling, well, the regret that he has now
Yeah.
from the past, right?
Yeah.
So our answers were A,
D.
D, and B. Yes. Cool. Do you have any questions? All right. Sounds good. Let's move on to 11. We're gonna do 11. It's a little bit more entertaining than boiling an elephant, so we don't have that much time. All right. So for the sake of time, I don't want to hold you too long, so I'm gonna go ahead and just read it. But I'll probably just have you read a couple of paragraphs as well, okay? All right, so 11 by Sandra Cisneros. Sandra Cisneros is a Mexican American who writes about her years growing up. What? Sorry? Oh, and we're at Sandra Cisneros Elementary School, so that was nice. Okay, so what they don't understand about birthdays and what they never tell you is that when you're 11, you're also 10 and 9 and 8 and 7 and 6 and 5 and 4 and 3 and 2 and 1. And when you wake up on your 11th birthday, you expect to feel 11, but you don't. You open your eyes and everything's just like yesterday.
Thank you.
No problem. Only it's today. And you don't feel 11 at all. You feel like you're still 10, and you are underneath the year that makes you 11. Alright, so we're talking about what specifically so far?
Not feeling the right age.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we're talking about. So that's good. See, you're understanding it. Okay, so after reading that first paragraph, let's go ahead and just look at the questions. So how does Rachel feel about her teacher during this incident? What purpose does the reputation of a countdown serve? Which statement from the passage is an example of a simile? Alright, so those questions are not really asking us too much about the text. It's like more specific phrases and not the main idea. So we don't really have to focus too much on the main idea. I mean, of course that helps, but it's asking us particular questions referring to this kind of stuff. Okay, okay, so let's continue reading. Like some days, you might say something stupid, and that's the part of you that's still 10. Or maybe some days you might need to sit on your mama's lap because you're scared, and that's the part of you that's 5. And maybe one day when you're all grown up, maybe you will need to cry like if you're 3, and that's okay. That's what I tell Mama when she's sad and needs to cry. Maybe she's feeling 3. Because the way you grow old is kind of like an onion, or like the rings inside a tree trunk, or like my little wooden dolls that fit one inside the other. Each year inside the next one. That's how being 11 years old is. You don't feel 11. Not right away. It takes a few days, weeks even, sometimes even months before you say 11 when they ask you. And you don't feel smart 11, not until you're almost 12. That's the way it is. Only today I wish I didn't have only 11 years rattling inside me like pennies in a tin Band-Aid box. Today I wish I was 102 instead of 11. Because if I was 102, I'd have known what to say when Mrs. Price put the red sweater on my desk. I would have known how to tell her it wasn't mine, instead of just sitting there with that look on my face and nothing coming out of my mouth. Whose is this? Mrs. Price says, and she holds the red sweater up in the air for all the class to see. Whose? It's been sitting in the coat room for a month. Not mine, says everybody. Not me. It has to belong to somebody, Mrs. Price keeps saying, but nobody can remember. It's an ugly sweater with red plastic buttons and a collar and sleeves all stretched out like you could use it for a jump rope. It's maybe 1,000 years old, and even if it belonged to me, I wouldn't say so. So far, what's happening?
That he can't feel the right age, and he feels like I don't know how to
No, you're right. You're right so far. She doesn't feel the right age because it seems like at certain ages it's more appropriate to cry. Remember how they said she was saying how her mom sometimes felt like she was crying, and that's the time that she felt like she was 3.
Yeah.
You know, so some ages are more appropriate to feel a certain way, and You know, she's just basically saying that, for example, she says she wishes she was 102. Why do you think that is? Because
She would know.
Yeah.
how it is.
she would know what to do in certain situations. And she's referring to a specific example, which is the one regarding what? With Mrs. Price.
About the sweater.
Yeah. She's saying that something about the sweater. We haven't got to it yet, but we'll figure it out. Okay. So she's basically saying that Mrs. Price, that she wouldn't even say the sweater was hers because it was so ugly. Even if it was hers.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's keep going. Maybe because I'm skinny, maybe because she doesn't like me, that stupid Sylvia Salivar says, I think it belongs to Rachel. An ugly sweater like that, all raggedy and old, but Mrs. Price believes her. Mrs. Price takes the sweater and puts it right on my desk. But when I open my mouth, nothing comes out. You're not mine. I finally say in a little voice that was maybe me when I was 4. Of course it's yours, Mrs. Price says. I remember you wearing it once. Because she's older and the teacher, she's right, and I'm not. Of course it's yours, Mrs. Price. Oh, I'm sorry, I read that again. Not mine, not mine, not mine. But Mrs. Price is already turning to page 32 and math problem number 4. I don't know why, but all of a sudden I'm feeling sick inside. Like the part of me that's 3 wants to come out of my eyes. Only I squeeze them shut tight and bite down on my teeth really hard and try to remember today I am 11. 11. Mama is making a cake for me for tonight, and when Papa comes home, everybody will sing happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. But when the sick feeling goes away and I open my eyes, the red sweater's still sitting there like a big red mountain. I move the red sweater to the corner of my desk with my ruler. I love my pencil and books and erasers far from it as possible. I even move my chair a little to the right. Not mine, not mine, not mine. In my head, I'm thinking how long till lunchtime? How long till I can take the red sweater and throw it over the schoolyard fence? Or leave it hanging on a parking meter? Or bunch it up into a little ball and toss it in the alley? Except when math period ends, Mrs. Price says loud in front of everybody, Now Rachel, that's enough! Because she sees I've shoved the red sweater to the tippy tip corner of my desk and it's hanging all over the edge like a waterfall. But I don't care. Rachel, Mrs. Price says. She says it like she's getting mad. You put that sweater on right now and no more nonsense. But it's not now, Mrs. Price says. This is when I wish I was in 11. Because all the years inside of me, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, are pushing at the back of my eyes when I put one arm through one sleeve of the sweater that smells like cottage cheese, and then the other arm through the other, and stand there with my arms apart like if the sweater hurts me, and it does, all itchy and full of germs that aren't even mine. That's when everything I've been holding in since this morning, since when Mrs. Price put the sweater on my desk, finally lets go, and all of a sudden I'm crying in front of everybody. I wish I was invisible, but I'm not. I'm 11, and it's my birthday today, and I'm crying like I'm 3 in front of everybody. I put my head down on the desk and bury my face in my stupid clown sweater arms. My face all hot and spit coming out of my mouth because I can't stop the little animal noises from coming out of me. Until there aren't any more tears left in my eyes, and it's just my body shaking like when you have the hiccups. And my whole head hurts like when you drink milk too fast. But the worst part is right before the bell rings for lunch. That stupid Phyllis Lopez, who is even dumber than Sylvia Salivar, says she remembers the red sweater is hers. I take it off right away and give it to her. Only Mrs. Price pretends like everything's okay. Today I'm 11. There's a cake Mama's making for me tonight, and when Papa comes home from work, we'll eat it. There'll be candles and presents, and everybody will sing happy birthday. Happy birthday to you, Rachel. Only it's too late. I'm 11 today. I'm 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. But I wish I was 102. I wish I was anything but 11, because I want today to be far away already. Far away like a runaway balloon, like a tiny O in the sky. So tiny, tiny, you have to close your eyes to see it. Alright, did you like it? Okay, so, Can you summarize to me what the story's about? I just want to make sure you're understanding it.
About him being 11, but he feels like he's not like age 11. He feels like he's younger than what he feels like. He's 11, but he feels younger. He doesn't feel exactly 11. Like he can't speak like an 11-year-old.
Mm-hmm. Not as smart as an 11-year-old.
Yeah. So
And also, what else? What else are we talking about throughout almost the entire story?
about the way he feels in school.
Regarding what?
That's what.
Yeah. So what does the teacher do to her? Because her name is Rachel, right?
Yeah. Makes her quit her job.
Yeah. So she wrongly accuses Rachel of being the owner of the sweater,
Yeah.
right? And we know towards the end that who was the owner? Another girl. Her name was Phyllis.
Oh yeah.
Remember, Phyllis is the one that says, "Oh, that sweater's actually mine," but Saldivar was the one that said, "Oh no, I think that's Rachel's sweater." And she's saying that because the teacher is older and she is the teacher, that automatically makes her right, even though she wasn't right, right? So that's what the story's about. Anything else you want to add on, or is that basically the gist of it?
Yeah, so.
Okay. All right. So let's answer the questions. First, how does Rachel feel about her teacher during this incident? A, she thinks her teacher is very wise. B, she thinks her teacher is funny. C, she thinks her teacher is weak. D, she thinks her teacher is mean. What do you think?
I think Rachel feels like her teacher is very wise.
Wise?
Not funny, not weak. Maybe mean, but she really didn't say much about the teacher being mean.
But she hates her. Well, I don't want to say hates. But remember, she's talking a lot about the teacher, saying just because she's older and just because she's a teacher, she's right. And she's basically saying that's wrong. It's not okay for her to accuse me of being the owner of the sweater when I'm not.
Yeah. Okay.
So I see why you're saying that maybe she thinks that the teacher is wise because of the age and the
Yeah.
fact that she's referring to ages a lot. Maybe that's why. But she's not she's kind of not saying exactly that about the teacher. She's not really saying, "Oh, my teacher is wise because she's older." She basically kind of accused her of being wrong and that the age in that particular instance was irrelevant,
Yeah.
right? It didn't really matter. So
she thinks her teacher's mean.
well, would you think your teacher's mean if your teacher accused you of owning a sweater and putting it on, even though it wasn't yours?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Okay, so what purpose does the reputation of a countdown serve? Do you know what countdown we're referring to? The one where she goes, "Today I'm 11, 10, 9,
Oh, okay.
8,
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
countdown. So, A, it heightens the excitement of the piece. B, it serves to keep readers focused on what they are reading. C, it serves to express all the years that go into making up 11. Or D, it demonstrates the speaker's intelligence. What do you think? What can we eliminate?
Okay, it can be B.
Why?
Because the speaker is not demonstrating intelligence of a 11-year-old.
Well, I agree with you, but also by counting down, it doesn't really demonstrate any form of intelligence. You're just
Mhm.
counting, right?
Okay.
So yes, we can eliminate that one. What else can we eliminate?
Eight.
Why?
Because there's not just a specific piece that they're talking about.
Well, when they say piece, they're referring to the passage. They're referring to the
Oh,
thing.
okay.
But is it an exciting piece? Are we talking about something that's supposed to make you excited by counting down?
No.
So can we rule that one out? Yes? Alright, so what about B and C?
Shall I?
B. Maybe,
You said we can eliminate B?
I'm only here in the morning, so I'm
Yeah.
leaving till about 8:15. So
Why?
8:15, yeah, so not, then bring them like that.
because even though it has us focus on,
The reading, that's not the purpose.
yeah, like counting down and whatever, but it does, talk about, like C, it serves in reference to all the years that go into making 11, like the whole process of being 11.
Yeah.
So, I think B would be eliminated.
Yes, and I agree with you. You're absolutely right. It's C because throughout the entire thing, and that's the purpose that it serves to count on. Because she's saying how at age 3 you could cry, and at age 5 you could do this. At age 7 you are able to do this. Everything she's basically talking about that all this stuff is part of being 11. So that's
Yeah.
the purpose that it serves. All right. So then we have number 9. Which statement from the passage is an example of a simile? A. The way you grow old is kind of like an onion. B. You might need to sit on your mama's lap. C. Maybe because I'm skinny. Or D. You don't feel smart. 11.
A.
Tell me what? Tell me what?
Because the way you go old is kind of like a simile on the onion.
Perfect. Yep. Yeah, you're right. All right, so we already ran out of time.
Okay.
I gave you, there's 2 other packets. The first one, Boy on a Dolphin, and then the Gulliver's Travels. If you want to practice them, go ahead and do them. Shouldn't take you very long.
Similar to these.
Yeah, they're very similar, and it'll help you practice the literary devices that we talked about today. And when you do them, you need the answers, just come back to me and I'll make sure to give you the answers to make sure you're doing it right. All right, so that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.